Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our final Forward Together event for 2021. We're ending on a high note with Jamie Lee, who is an executive coach, and she is here to talk to you today about getting the career that you want and how to advocate for yourself in all aspects of your career. And I'm really delighted to have her here because I've known her for a very long time. She's a friend. I've had the privilege to collaborate with her on occasion, and I know how dynamic, knowledgeable, and passionate she is. So I want to introduce her to you and let her get started. As I mentioned, she's an executive coach. She is a Smith College graduate. She is the daughter of Korean immigrants, and I'm sure her parents, could not even imagine the way that her career would blossom. And she's also an advocate for women's equality and equity in the workplace. So that's Jamie Lee. And I also, before we get started, I want to let all of our ladies of the Forward Together call know this is our Christmas or holiday gift to each and every one of you. And Jamie will be getting one too. This is the Daily Greatness Planner, which helps you to organize your life, build your dreams, and chart a path to success. So I think it's a great adjunct to what Jamie will be doing. So this is the firm's gift to each of you, and you will be receiving them in the mail. Enjoy. Okay, Jamie Lee.
Carla, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carla and Jill. And I am just so deeply appreciative of this opportunity to present to you today. Carla was instrumental in inspiring me to become an executive coach for smart women. I will tell you the story in a little bit, but here's what you can expect. We're going to talk about 3 most common pitfalls that smart women around the world encounter. So I want to let you know what those are so you can prevent yourself from falling into those pitfalls, save time, save energy, and 5 steps that are completely in your control that you can start implementing today. Yes, even with the holidays right around the corner, you can start implementing that 5-step process today. And if you want to take this work further and you're interested in having a conversation with me one-on-one, there is an invitation for that. So stay tuned. There's a lot of content to cover. We're going to move very quickly. It is being recorded. I will send you the recording. But if you want to take notes, if you're somebody like me who loves taking like long-handed detailed notes and it like slows you down, feel free to take a picture of the screen. Feel free to just take a screen snapshot so that you can have the slides, you can have everything on the slides saved to your desktop. Okay, and we'll have time for Q&A at the end, so save them till the end. Let's get started. Welcome to How to Advocate for the Career You Want. My name is Jamie Lee. And I'm an executive coach who specializes in helping smart women who hate office politics get promoted and better paid without throwing anyone under the bus. I feel like I've had a lifelong training in this because what this takes is 2 critical skills: self-advocacy and self-confidence. And as Carla mentioned, I am an immigrant. I moved here to America. I arrived at JFK Airport Christmas Day 1989. So it's been 32 years now for me. And I came here with my mother and 2 sisters. Long story short, my mother ended up raising the 3 of us by herself as a single parent in New Jersey, speaking broken English. I don't know, some of you may be familiar with Margaret Cho, maybe some of you are familiar with the Korean American comedian Awkwafina. So Margaret Cho came before Awkwafina. Margaret Cho inspired Awkwafina. And Margaret Cho used to do this comedy bit where she would impersonate her Korean mother's thick Korean accent. And I would watch that in 2004 when I was in college and be like, wow, that's like my mom, except my mother's English is a little bit worse. And even still, while speaking very broken English, she ended up raising the three of us by herself, running a nail salon in New Jersey. And all this time she was telling me and my sisters, girls, you gotta speak up. You gotta ask for what you want. You got to advocate. You gotta ask for what you want. And I'll be honest with you, growing up, I resisted my mother's Monday back quarter style of coaching. Her telling me, hey, why didn't you ask for more? Why didn't you speak up more? And we're like, no, mom, I just want to get along. I want to be liked. Yeah. And it wasn't until I got into the working world and I found out the hard way that my mother was absolutely right. You don't ask, you don't get. I found myself working at a hedge fund. This was about 11 years ago. I found myself working at a hedge fund as a junior analyst, and I found out by reading industry reports that I was making about 50% of the going market range. And I realized, oh, it's because I didn't ask. I didn't advocate for what I want. Yeah. And it was that moment I realized my mother was right. And since then, and this was around the time I met Carla. And around that time, I decided I wanted to get involved in tech startups. I wanted to get involved with entrepreneurship. And I realized, what can I do? How can I contribute to the startup community? And I realized I knew some things about finance. I knew some things about self-advocacy. I learned it the hard way, right? And I realized I can just organize workshops where women get together and practice asking for what they want. And Carla joined one of these workshops and she told her story of advocating for equal pay as a lawyer. And it really inspired me. I'm like, wow, this is important. There is a need for this type of conversation, this type of coaching. And since then, I became an advocacy trainer. I traveled all around the country, before the pandemic started. I went to Africa, I went to Tokyo, I went to Canada, and I taught negotiation, self-advocacy skills to working women around the world. But I realized in this process that unless you were generating self-confidence from within, unless you had the mindset of courage and self-belief, all of these tactics and skills were just falling flat. People weren't implementing them unless they genuinely generated self-confidence from within. And that is the reason why I became an executive coach who specializes in working with women one-on-one and helping them overcome office politics, overcome doubt, and get promoted and better paid without throwing anyone under the bus. So thanks again to Carla for inspiring me to become the executive coach that I am today, just like my mother inspired me to become the executive coach that I am today. And I want to share with you, in my journey, I have noticed this. I have observed this fact that thousands of women around the world, smart, ambitious, competent women, take too long to advocate for what they want. What do we do instead of advocating for what we want? We overcommit, we over-deliver, and we under-communicate our wants and wins. Yeah, and I included myself here because I have done this. I noticed that, if I'm not really mindful of it, overcommit, over-deliver, under-communicate what I want and how I am winning. Why is that? There are many reasons. Socialization. We've all been taught to take care of other people. We've all been taught it's selfish and it's not womanly. It's not ladylike for you to brag and to be proud of what you have accomplished, to ask for what you want. Yeah. So we have socialization, but also at the fundamental level, the reason why so many women take too long to advocate and instead overcommit, over-deliver, and under-communicate is because advocacy is uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable. But why is it uncomfortable? It's uncomfortable because when we think about advocating for what we want, our brains almost always go to the place of conflict. People will disagree with us. People will think, that I'm being a greedy, BITCH, aggressive, etc. Yeah. So we anticipate conflict. And so what happens when you think that self-advocacy leads to conflict? What happens is the 3A trap. 3A trap is a terminology that is coined by mutual benefit expert William Ury. He wrote the book on how to achieve win-win negotiation. And he noticed that when people avoid conflict, when they are conflict averse, they often fall into the 3A trap. And the 3A trap looks like, okay, there is something that we don't agree on. I want something, you want something else, and I'm uncomfortable having a frank conversation about it. So I'm just gonna avoid you or the topic. But what happens when you avoid this conflict? What often happens is that you just like give in, you appease, you accommodate the other side's ask because it's uncomfortable, we're avoiding. But when you accommodate, the fundamental conflict, right, is not being addressed. And what happens is that there is this upset, anger, resentment that can build up over time. And sometimes the anger just explodes and you attack the other side. But now you have guilt. And so now you're avoiding again. And with the guilt and shame, you're accommodating. And then this cycle can continue. It can, just like a vicious cycle, right? So how does this show up for women? How does it show up for smart, competent women? Here's what I have noticed to be the 3 most common pitfalls. First, there is the comfort fallacy. So many clients, so many women come to me saying, I want asking for what I want self-advocacy to be comfortable. And that's how I will know that I am confident. But notice that comfort never arrives. Because of course it's not comfortable. We've never been taught how to do it. We've been socialized to think that it is like the opposite of being like a good, woman, right? And so of course it doesn't feel comfortable, but when you think it should be comfortable, then you avoid advocating because comfort never arrives. And it also comes with very often tiara syndrome. Tiara syndrome is something Carol Frolinger, a women negotiation scholar, coined. And what tiara syndrome is when you think that if you keep your head down and do good work, the authorities, the people in charge, the adults will notice that and reward you with a tiara, kind of like a Disney fairy tale. Except we don't live in Disney fairy tale. The tiara syndrome is very common. We've all been taught through our education that if we keep our head down, do good work, do it just right, then we get an A, we get rewarded, and we feel good about ourselves. Except again, in the working world, doesn't happen. But when we are in tiara syndrome, we often accommodate the ask of other people, we accommodate other people's agendas because we're like, okay, this is how I prove myself to be worthy of a tiara. And so another thing that happens is often the comfort fallacy, the tiara syndrome comes with perfectionist fantasy. A lot of my clients come to me with perfectionist fantasy. If I do it just right, if I do this work on my own and never make a mistake, then it will one day feel comfortable to ask for what I want, and I will be rewarded because my work will speak for itself. And again, remember, these are fallacies, syndromes, fantasy doesn't happen. But what happens when you are in perfectionist fantasy? We don't often attack other people. We don't often attack our bosses or colleagues. We often attack ourselves when we are in perfectionist fantasy. Why am I not good enough, for example? Yeah. And so the combined effect of comfort fallacy, tiara syndrome, perfectionist fantasy is that you start feeling like your career is out of your control, and you can feel like you're stuck and you feel kind of resentful, but like you're frustrated, but you don't know how to take back control. You don't know how to be in power of your career direction. And I've definitely been in this. Yeah. And let's just notice that, again, fallacy, syndrome, fantasy, these are all myths that our brains will conjure up because of socialization, because of our education, and also because asking for what we want, risking rejection, risking that no is uncomfortable. So our brains would rather keep us in inaction. Okay. But I'm here to tell you the truth. You deserve the truth. And here's the truth, okay? Addressing conflict. Even if what you want is in conflict with what somebody else wants, addressing it instead of avoiding, accommodating, or attacking yourself or other people is what actually leads to growth. And you know this from your personal relationships, and it's also the same in professional relationships. In self-advocacy, you asking for what you want, expressing your desire, right, is an act of service. And here's why. Now, when you think about asking for what you want, whether that is career growth, whether that is, a better work-life balance, whether that is, having the time and the wherewithal to grow your family, when you ask for what you want, you serve yourself first, obviously, right? But when you do that, it is an act of claiming agency in your career. And agency means that you have sovereignty, that you are the sovereign, you are the CEO and queen of your life and your career. So in other words, when you advocate for what you want, it is the opposite of waiting for somebody to reward you, to place a tiara on your head. It is the act of you claiming your own tiara and putting it on your own head. And my clients who have advocated for the career that they want, they often get thanked by their bosses. Their bosses are grateful that my clients spoke up, claimed their value, and confidently and clearly asked for what they wanted, because they say, you've helped me make my job easier. I know how to support you. And also you expanded possibilities for other women who are looking to you, other women and women of color who are looking to you for an example of what is possible. And so the truth is, your career direction is always in your control. This is something that my life partner told me when I was in that very stuck place in my career 10 years ago, because I realized I hadn't advocated, I was under earning, and I felt like my career was out of my control. He looked at me and he said, your career is in your control. And I'm like, whoa, you're right. I get to choose. And here's how this is true. Because your career growth, you do not need to prove yourself. So many smart, competent women come to me and say, oh, I need to prove myself. But the thought that you need to prove yourself to have the career that you want is pretty poison. It feels logical, it feels pretty, but when you think that you need to prove yourself, you actually end up having more pressure. And management experts have found that when there's emotional pressure, people actually underperform. So the thought that you need to prove yourself creates pressure, and when you have pressure, you actually underperform. So it doesn't actually bring you closer to the growth that you want. It can actually take you further away and make you feel exhausted rather than energized. And you don't need to add more commitments. The commitments that you already have are sufficient. You don't need to wait for the right timing to engage in the conversations. This is the question I always get, even after I make this point in the beginning of the presentation. At the end, so many people tell me, but when is the right time? There is no such thing as the right time or the perfect time. And here's why this is important, because when you think that there is the right time to ask for what you want, then you wait. Then you wait for some signal out there to tell you that it is the right time, and you keep delaying taking action. And when you delay taking action, you're not in the place of being in control. You're like, something else outside of me needs to change in order for me to be in control. You also don't need formal process or an evaluation. So many of my clients, including myself, have asked for the growth that we want and gotten it outside the normal formal process. And in fact, I'm going to talk about this a little more, but if you wait until the formal evaluation to have the conversation about your career direction, too late. Because by then decisions have already been made about who's getting promoted, about budget allocations. So you want to engage in those conversations 6 to 12 months ahead of the formal discussions. You got to engage in informal conversations, and this is how you take control of your career, right? This is the reason why there are some people you're like, wait, how did that person get promoted, right? I didn't know that they were, what's been going on? It's because they engaged in these conversations way ahead of the formal process, evaluation, discussion. You also don't need a different boss. You don't need a different structure, right? And here's how you take control of your career. There's 5 simple steps that you can start implementing right away, starting today, okay? First, you take stock. You assess your contributions from a neutral perspective. Then you make decisions. You gotta know what you want to ask for, what is the career growth, or what is the quality and the type of career that you want to have in the future. You gotta be clear on that yourself before you engage in conversations. Self-advocacy, negotiation, these are all just conversations. And of course, you gotta ask. You may be familiar with the concept of anchoring. Anchoring is a negotiation term for simply telling people what you want. So you gotta ask, you gotta apply, you gotta drop an anchor, right? And throughout this process, you honor commitments to yourself. So let me walk you step by step through each of these steps. Number 1, the most important, this is the fundamental thing, taking stock of your contributions. I think there's never been a better time to take some time for you. It could just be a half hour, it could be an hour, or you could give yourself a whole day to make a thorough, comprehensive list of all the ways you have contributed to your job, to your team, in your career. And when you make that list, make it quantifiable, make it specific, list all of the wins, yeah? And I think this would be a great exercise for you to do using the gift that you're receiving, the journal, right? And when you do, I want you to think about it from these 5 different frameworks. First of all, what were the immediate impact? What was the immediate benefit of you achieving that contribution? Depositions, deals closed, right? Lawsuits engaged, or clients won, or cases completed. What were the immediate impact of that? And then take a step further and think about what are the beyond benefits? What now becomes possible for your team, for your organization, for your clients, because the immediate benefit happened? Maybe your clients' lives will be different. Maybe the precedent has been reset for I'm not going to talk about legal terms, but what's going to become possible that wasn't yet possible until you made that contribution. So let me give you an example from one of my clients. I have some clients who work in technology, and one of my clients is a mechanical engineer, and she loves coming up with these simple, elegant solutions, almost like MacGyver-like mechanical engineering solutions. And for her, it's like this piece of cake. It's just what she does, right? But I challenge her to think about, okay, what now becomes possible because you came up with a solution? She's like, okay, well, one thing I do know is that now our company is able to go back to its investors and tell them we met our milestone. Okay, now what becomes possible because the company met its milestone? Oh, because the company met its milestone, the CEO can go to the investors and say, we are reliable, you can give us more money, right? All that from her contributing with her solutions, right? And so I want you to just journal and think about all the ways that your contributions benefit stakeholders, clients, the organization from a bigger perspective. And if this feels challenging to you, totally normal, right? Use the friend hack. The friend hack is a proven way that women can improve their self-advocacy outcomes. Researchers at Carnegie Mellon and Stony Brook University ran this study where they encouraged both women and men to prepare for a mock negotiation with this mental prime. The mental prime being pretend you're going to advocate on behalf of your best friend. Right? And when they gave this prime to women, their advocacy outcomes were significantly higher than men's. For some reason, the friend hack works for women. So how do you apply this to you? Once you have written your thorough list of all the ways you've made contributions this year, I want you to take a step back and think about it from the perspective of somebody who is your friend. Think about the list of contributions as if they were done by a friend that you know and like. What might you say about this friend who has completed, who has achieved this list of contributions? You might be like, damn, she's a badass. She's really good at what she does. Yeah. And I want you to think about like, okay, how might my friend go to bat for me if, you know, she was the person to advocate for what I want? And when you think about this, I think it'll be easier to for you to think about what is the future potential? What more can I do? How can I add impact in a bigger way in the future? Because I have noticed that it's easy for me to see that for my friends than it is for me to see my own future potential. Like when I see my friends, I'm like, she can do anything. She can become CEO. She can make lots of money. She can grow in her career, right? So use the friend hack. Okay? And the purpose of this exercise is for you to take in your own validation, take in your own success, take in all of the ways that you are already killing it, that you are already contributing, and how you are contributing, maybe even at a higher level than your current job title, right? This is something that a lot of women do. And you want to practice taking in your own self-validation, because without you taking in that self-validation, it's going to be really difficult for you to claim credit for your value when you have that career conversation with your boss or a mentor or a stakeholder. So you first practice receiving credit. And when you go to ask for what you want, it won't be as difficult, it won't be as foreign when you claim your value and say, I am proud of the work I have done. I would like to be compensated according to the value I bring. I'd like to be considered for a promotion, or I'd like to have a conversation about adjusting my work hours so that I can have the work-life balance that I want, right? Practice, practice, practice. Okay, so this is the fundamental step. And from there, you're going to make decisions. What do you want? What is the career that you want? And decide what you want from the future, not from the past. Don't make decisions based on what you have done, what you've seen other people do, what is familiar, what is known. I want you to make decisions from the unknown future. Okay, I know this sounds a little woo-woo, so let me explain this diagram. How do you make decisions for what you want from the future that you want? You are here now in your nonlinear career journey, career path. For sure, we will all encounter obstacles. No one's career path is like a straight line. That's a total myth, right? There will be ups and downs. We will have to maneuver through obstacles and even office politics, right? That's real. But when you think about who you will be in the future, when you think about you at the end of 2022, at the end of 2023, at the end of 2024, maybe like 3-5 years from now, think about who is that version of me in the future. How am I different than who I am today? Am I more confident? Am I more authoritative? Do I have more ease? Do I have more peace in my life? Do I feel more comfortable in my skin, right? Am I making more money? Am I partner, right? I want you to think about who you are becoming as the North Star in this non-linear journey, because it's sort of like getting lost in the woods. But as long as you know where the North Star is, as long as you have your eyes set on the North Star, you don't get lost, right? What I'm saying is like, it's not a path that like you can just follow blindly. You're gonna make this path for yourself. And sometimes it's gonna feel like you're in the woods, but as long as you know who you are becoming, you'll never get lost because you have your North Star. Okay, so this is the first thing that you want to decide. Who am I becoming? Like, I want to become, like when I think about getting older, I'm turning 40 this year, and my personal motto is I'm going to become healthier, wealthier, and hotter with age. And so whoever is Jamie in the future, she is healthier, wealthier, and hotter. She's like having more fun. She has more time to enjoy herself and her business. She's having fun in her life, right? So that is my North Star. And so then once I have my North Star clear in my mind, then I can ask myself, okay, how did my future self do it? Who is she? And what does she do? How is she different from me today? And this is how you guide yourself through the journey to the person that you want to become, to the career that you want to have. So it's not like you need to follow anyone else's step by step. It's like you decide for yourself who you are becoming, and you consult your own future self for how you navigate the path forward. So this means you got to get clear on who before how or what you do, right? How is your future self different? I think this is a great journal prompt, right? What does she have that you don't have? How does she thinking? How does she feel? What is she doing? And then once you're clear on who it is that you're becoming, then you prioritize your current career. You prioritize decisions that you have to make now in terms of like who you engage, what you say, how you say it, right? Then comes the strategy. Okay. So I know it's a little abstract, but I think this is a very important step. And every single time I walk my clients through this, the goal that felt impossible, making more money, getting promoted, right? Getting more recognized and seen, if they allow themselves to guide the decisions by, who they are becoming, they realize, oh, it's doable. My brain can come up with strategies. I can overcome obstacles when I ask my future self how she did it. okay? And the thing that felt impossible and almost like unrealistic becomes more doable, all right? And we'll come back to this, but for now, let's move on. Now that you know what your contributions are, how you're adding value, what is the beyond benefit, now that you have some idea about what is your future potential, right? And now that you have some practice taking in credit so that you can claim credit at these career conversations, and now that you have an idea of who you are becoming, right? Now you're ready to engage in conversations. And I think this is so important because so many smart women that I have coached have told me they feel like they have to do it all by themselves. They have to do it all by themselves. And when they think that, they get burnt out, they get exhausted, they don't engage in intentional career conversations. They don't ask for help either, right? So this is the antidote to doing it all yourself, burning out, and feeling like your career is out of your control. You get clear on what you want, you get clear on who you want to be, and start engaging in informal conversations with people you already know and trust. Who are some people you already know and trust that you want to share your career vision with? Just exchange ideas, or just let them know, hey, this is what I'm looking for, right? And you want to ask for help far in advance, okay? Think about where you want your career to be at the end of next year, at the end of 2024, okay? And think about who are the stakeholders, who are the people you need buy-in from. Maybe it's your husband. And let me give you a complete different example. I went to a women's event, and the women were encouraged to think about what they want in the future, 2-3 years from now, and think about who are the people they need help from today, and call them up, send them an email today, and ask them for that help you need to reach your goal 2 to 3 years from now. At this event, this woman decided she wanted to become a published author. And so she reached out to somebody who works in publishing. And she said, hey, would you be open to reviewing my book when it's ready in 2 years from now? And fast forward, her book got published with that person. So asking far in advance, people are more likely to say yes. So I really want to encourage you to think about, okay, what can I ask for today? For maybe like for something that I want 2-3 years from now, right? And when you do this, you are leveraging the interdependence of your career. No one is an island, right? Doing it all yourself doesn't help you get promoted, because it's about who knows what you know, right? It's about who knows what you know behind those closed doors when they go to make those decisions about who gets promoted or who gets a bonus, etc., right? And so think about this. According to Politically Savvy, this is a great book written by somebody who worked with NASA engineers, and he studied how people become politically savvy in that they're not Machiavellian, they're not controlling, but they have really great influence on how people reach consensus within organizations. And the book is called Politically Savvy. And the most important thing from that book is to leverage the 51% rule. 51% rule means that before reaching a formal decision at a formal meeting, or wherever a consensus is required, and at law firms, partners have to agree, right? You want to get 51% of the decision makers already familiar, already bought in with your ask before that formal meeting. And if it's just your boss making that decision, then that boss is the 51%. But if it's a decision by consensus, by quorum, you want to get at least the minimum majority required already familiar, right? So again, leverage the interdependence of everyone's career. Like no one is an island. You know people who's connected to other people, and especially in your legal career, you want to have intentional, thoughtful careers. Thoughtful conversations with as many people as possible, sharing what you have achieved, sharing your vision of where you want to go, offering some value, saying, hey, how can I help you? Maybe you can help me, right? This is how you do politically savvy without throwing anyone under the bus, okay? Because you get promoted not by what you know, but by who knows you, who knows what you know. So engage in those conversations. And this is a great time to just strike up a conversation with people that you already know and trust. Say, hey, happy holidays. How's it going? Let's have a quick chat, okay? So you engage in those conversations, you build your politically savvy consensus by engaging in these informal, value additive conversations. And at a certain point, you just gotta ask the decision maker. You just gotta ask, hey, I'd like to be considered for a promotion, or I'd like to have a conversation about my work-life balance, etc. Right? You gotta make that ask, you gotta drop that anchor. And I always tell all of my clients, if it feels awkward, that's how you know you're doing it right. We've been socialized to not ask. We've been exposed to and conditioned to have perfectionist fantasy, to think in tiara syndrome, right? To believe in comfort fallacy. So of course it feels awkward. If it does, you're doing it right. Courage is doing it afraid. And only 3 things can happen when you do. You might get a yes. They might be like, oh, so glad you asked. We've been wanting someone like you to take the lead. We don't give away promotions to people who don't want it. So glad you asked. Or they might say no. That's okay. Even if they say no, this is a cause for celebration. You have become a woman who asks, who advocates for what she wants. You have transformed who you are. Every no is an invitation, because it's an invitation to consider, okay, is this a great fit? Is this where I want to be? Or what else do I need to change so I can be more, I can become the kind of candidate or become the kind of attorney who gets a yes, right? Or you get thoughts, or you get pushback, or they say things that's not exactly yes or no, but it's kind of like not now, right? And when you get pushback, maybe they say, oh, we need to see more of XYZ skills from you, or, oh yeah, we agree you're doing a great job, but this isn't a great time. It is so tempting to get defensive. It is so tempting to assume that it is personal. It is so tempting to not get curious, but furious. Yeah. So this is how you retain control. Instead of giving in to the default way of getting defensive or making it mean it's personal, that something's gone wrong, instead you drop into curiosity. I once taught a negotiation workshop for women who are general counsels. They were all general counsels at companies. And this was the most eye-opening skill that they took away that evening. When you hear no, or when you get pushback, instead of conceding, instead of getting defensive, instead of putting up a fight, you ask an open-ended W question. If you think that now is not a great time, when would be a good time? If you think I don't yet have the skills to become partner, what are the skills? And how can I demonstrate, right? W, who, what, when, where, how. Okay. So I want to encourage everyone to practice this over this holiday season. You will have conversations with your loved ones, with family, and people will say things that will get on your nerve. And instead of like, are you crazy? Instead of saying, that's nuts. Or instead of, are you trying to attack me? Just get curious. Ask an open-ended W question. how are you thinking about this that I am not? Right? Or help me understand. Why are you thinking of it that way? Yeah. Curious, not furious. I have clients who have turned no into yeses. I have clients who've been told that they're not ready for a promotion, but instead of, conceding, instead of giving up, they just got curious, right? They also did the steps 1 through 4. They went back, they took stock of their own contributions, and they're like, okay, what does the data actually say? Am I really on par, or am I missing something? And I had one client who took stock of her actual contributions, and she realized, no, she's not behind her male colleagues. Her skills were on par. And so instead of giving up, she became gracefully assertive while also being curious, not furious. She didn't make the no mean anything personal. She went back to her manager and said, hey, let's just have a conversation. Here's what I'm seeing. This is the actual data of my contributions. Is it possible that there is some unconscious bias going on here? Again, I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to blame you, but is it possible that you're not seeing something that is here? And that conversation opened her manager's eyes, and he said, you know what? I think you're absolutely right. I think there's been some unconscious bias on my part. And she got promoted 6 months ahead of schedule. So what did she do? She coached her manager. She showed up willing to be curious without passing judgment, right? She didn't litigate. She didn't point fingers. She didn't say, oh, this is wrong. She got curious, not furious. She asked open questions, and she was gracefully assertive, and that led her to the result that she wanted. And this is possible for you too, even if you get yes, no, or pushback. All right, so last but not least, you got to honor commitments to yourself throughout this process. So the most important thing is you got to choose a compelling reason that serves your future. And you will know that you got to your compelling reason for why you want what you want in your career when you feel like this conviction, the commitment in your body. And throughout this process, we're looking for progress, not perfection. We're not trying to do it just right. There is no perfect timing. There are no perfect words. We're looking for progress. We're looking for you showing up, giving yourself credit, right? Making decisions, engaging in conversations, asking for what you want, risking that no, being willing to get curious in that process, and being willing to say no as well. Right? The career that you want, the career in which you thrive, where you don't burn out, you got to also be willing to say no with grace. And yes, this process, it requires courage, not comfort. It's comfortable to assume that you got to be comfortable, so you don't wait, not take action, right? That's familiar comfort that leads to inaction. But courage is doing it awkward, doing it afraid. All right, so we're almost wrapping up here. Here's why this process works. When you take stock of your contributions and you take stock from the third party, a friend's perspective, you'll learn to articulate your value in a compelling way. And people want to hear from you. They want to hear from you, women leaders, women attorneys. They want to be compelled by your conviction in your value. They want to hear you talk about what you have done and what you can do in the future, and they want to be inspired. That's what they want. And when you make decisions for your desired future, this is how you activate your self-confidence. Confidence is having competence from the past, but self-confidence is you trusting yourself to do new things even before you have the evidence that you can. Again, it's tied to your future, and your future is only limited by your imagination for you, okay? And have conversations. Engage, show up, start practice showing up as just a little bit more of that future self, a little bit more authoritative, a little bit more confident, a little bit more courageous. And you build trust, you build relationships. right? You know that in your field, in the professional field, it is all about relationships. You got to engage in conversations. It's not about doing more work. It's about showing up, showcasing your contributions, and having conversations and telling people what you want. You got to ask, you got to apply, risk that no, go for it. This is how you build your self-advocacy skills. This is how you do it, right? It's like learning how to ride a bike. You got to get on the bike and fall a few times, get back up, and know, okay, this is how I do it better, right? Honor commitments to yourself, because in this process, you build integrity as a leader. If you can't honor commitments to yourself, how will people know that you can honor commitments to others? They can't. So it starts with you. Okay, so having said this, I know, it feels so simple, like maybe this can wait. Can this wait until the new year, until 2022? I just want to encourage you, think about these are simple steps that you can start implementing today. Starting on these skill sets today is the most important thing you can do for your career. There's never been a better time to be a woman in the working world. Think about it. I'm an immigrant from South Korea. 60 years ago, my career would have been impossible. I know that I am and that you are living the dreams, the fantasies of our foremothers, of our grandmothers. This career that we have, even if it is stressful, completely impossible for our great grandmothers. We're doing something that is impossible. There's never been a better time. There's never been a better time to start taking stock, to make decisions, have conversations, ask, honor commitments to yourself. And if you want help, if you want support doing this, I'd be more than happy to let you know about my 6-month one-on-one coaching program that I offer to mid-career women who want to get promoted. And in my program, I offer weekly accountability so that you can get supported all the way to tangible results. And you get unbiased perspective from me, a self-advocacy leadership expert, in a 100% confidential safe space that is designed solely for your professional personal growth. So if this resonated with you and you're interested in considering this for yourself, I invite you to book a free consultation with me. You go to jamieleecoach.com, apply. I have some spots available this week as well as in January. It's a 60-minute one-on-one conversation where I help you create custom solutions for results that you want. Think about the 5-step process. We can custom fit it. Think about it as like haute couture. The 5-step process is something that you can customize to your specific situation and needs. If that's what you want, you're invited to book your free consultation with me today by going to jamieleecoach.com/apply. So having said that, we have a few minutes remaining. I will open the floor up for questions. So if you have any questions about any of the steps or any of the points that I went over, this would be a great time to unmute yourself and just ask away.
Jamie, it's Carla. I'm in the New York office with Alana, and we were just talking about, do you have suggestions for us senior women lawyers about how we can better support our junior lawyers and our mentees in this journey about learning how to ask for what they want?
Yeah, Carla, I think what you can do is what you've done for me, which is share your experience, share I think this is a great opportunity, but also I think they would love to hear your personal stories. For me, when I heard your personal story, when I hear how other women did it, that was so inspiring. That helped me visualize how I can do that too. So maybe, you can have an hour where the senior leaders in your firm, the senior women leaders in your firm do like a open Q&A session where you can share your personal stories and open yourself up to questions from the junior members. If you haven't already done that, I think that would be fabulous.
Thanks, Jamie. I think we may put that on our Forward Together programming for 2022.
Excellent. So I wonder if any of the junior members here have questions about.
Hi, Jamie Lee. This is Mari Brindowdy.
Hey.
I just wanted one of the comments that you made in undertaking stock. I really love that. And I'm not sure if you would know this, but I wonder how related the friend hack is to those of us, I'm speaking from a friend, not for myself, of course, who identifies perfectionists. But I wonder how related that is, the friend hack, in the sense of it's sometimes so much easier to go to the defense of a female friend specifically and think, oh, I'd love to advocate for her. But sometimes it's harder for us that can be more self-critical. So
Yeah.
I love that friend hack. I put that in bold and underline that because I'm such a cheerleader for all my girlfriends. So I love that. I'm gonna maybe put that on a post-it note under my monitor.
Love it. So think about it this way. I also am still working through my old ways of beating myself up and thinking that if I beat myself up and try to get it just right, that somehow I'll be safe. But then I've noticed over and over again, holding myself to perfectionist ideals actually takes me further away from growth.
Absolutely.
In fact, the best way to deal with that is decide for yourself tiny, most basic, simple steps. What is the minimum viable action that you can take to get you towards the goal that you want? Because perfectionism is like we make it like so complicated and so hard, so much harder to achieve, and so that we don't take action. When we say, oh no, actually today it's a win if I just brush my teeth. It's a win if I just open up my computer. It's a win if I just put on lipstick and show up to my work. Okay, so you take it into very tiny, doable chunks that can help you move towards the growth that you want. And just remember that your future self who has the career that she wants, she didn't get there by doing it perfect. She did it by taking action one tiny step at a time.
I love that. That's so helpful. I'm writing that down now too.
Hey, glad. All right. Anyone else have questions for me about the process that we went through, or even about the consult? I'm here.
Hi, Jamie. I actually have a question still about the content of the presentation, which was so informative and amazing. So thank you again for presenting this. You mentioned in a part of your story that at one point you researched, what you should be or what your peers were making in your industry and how that ignited a fire, in you and changed your trajectory and asking for what you want. I was wondering if you know of other resources or have advice of how we can look around and try and self-evaluate, especially for those of us who might be first generation as lawyers or not know other people that are lawyers and in our similar fields outside of our firm, to find out where we should be or where our future self, what our future self should look like, if we were able to drive our path, in the ideal manner.
So I have 3 points on that. Number one, I want you to imagine that your income is never limited. Your income is only limited by what you decide you can make. Because, as lawyers, you can work for other lawyers, or you can become an entrepreneur. You can start your own practice, right? In which case your future income totally unlimited, right? And number two, definitely do some research. It doesn't hurt to do some online research. One resource that I know that has really helped my clients is 81cents.org. I think it's .org. I'm going to confirm that. It's 81cents.org or 81cents.com. And what they do is they give you a peer-reviewed compensation report. Like you go and you say, hey, I'm working in this legal field, I'm making X amount of dollars. And then people who are known, who are familiar with your industry and job will give you a report, and they'll give you an assessment of whether that is in line with the market range. And number 3, it always helps to actually talk to people. This is where having conversation also comes into play. Talk to real people, talk to the people here. Okay, you didn't hear that from HR. Okay, it's just unsolicited third-party advice. It's okay to have conversations with peers in your industry about your compensation. I highly encourage it. I'm thinking about going for this role. I'm thinking about asking for X. Do you think it's reasonable? Do you think it's crazy? Like, what would you expect in this type of role with this level of experience? I think for me, having that in-person conversation, or not in person, but like person-to-person conversation, makes that possibility so much more tangible and real in my brain. Like, I remember when I first heard, my colleagues are making X amount of dollars, like, whoa, that's possible. Yes, that's what I want.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Excellent question. So your income is only limited by what you decide. 2, definitely go Google 81cents.com, I think, or .org. Check on that. Number 3, talk to people. Ask them what they make. Yeah. Excellent question. Anyone else before we wrap up?
Any takers? Otherwise, Jamie, could you be so kind to let the women of Forward Together know how they can find you on LinkedIn, your podcast? What's the best way to connect with you? Could you be so kind to share it?
Yeah, come to jamieleecoach.com. You will find the links to my LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I also have a freebie that you can download here. I have some sample scripts that you can download. Go to jamieleecoach.com. It's all here. Yeah, and I share tips, stories, advice directly from my coaching sessions, in my social media posts, in my newsletter. So yeah, this is where you can find me. And if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with me, come to jamieleecoach.com/apply. I will help you custom fit the process to your specific situation, and we'll see if there is a fit, in terms of working together. And if not, it's okay.
Thanks so much, Jamie. This was really informative. It's lovely to see you. Thank you to all the women of Forward Together for attending. I will share a link later today in case you want to review anything, or if you didn't catch something with your notes. Jamie is being generous and sharing the link that we can download and use ourselves. Jamie, thank you so much. Have a very manifestation-filled new year, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much. Jill, do you want to say anything?
No, thank you so much, Jamie. This was fantastic. Exactly what we had in mind. So I appreciate you so much. Ladies of Forward Together, as always, if there are ideas of types of programs you want, if you want more things like this, if you want something else, please reach out to Carla and I, or Laura Henneman, or Mari Bryn Dowdy, and let us know what types of things you want for programming for 2022. We are so happy with the participation this year, and hope you guys have such a wonderful end of the year, and we'll look forward to planning much more in 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.